Oh, good morning. It's Thursday here, and I'm just going to have to give you some nature footage because it's been clear here in this part of Texas. So no time lapse, no cloudscapes, no storms. So I guess you'll just have to deal with that. High pressure across Texas. We have north winds here. Started out very cool this morning, lots of 50s, and let's check that out. Let's see here. I'm out of sequence here. There we go. North winds straight out of Kansas into Texas. So we're seeing a pretty cool evening here. Let me see if I can get the plots going. And we've got lots of 70s. In fact, the 80 line is all the way down to the Gulf Coast and along I-10 out in West Texas. And we've even got 60s up in Oklahoma. So quite a change here. So let's look at the surface patterns. And I've been showing this to you for the past week. This is the streamline analysis. And this gives us a good picture of what's happening in terms of air masses. So we have a very large low pressure system out in Kentucky and Tennessee with this counterclockwise flow around that. And then, of course, on the backside of a low pressure area, you're going to have a northerly flow. In other words, winds coming from the north to the south. So that's what's helping to keep things cool in the central part of the U.S. And then once you get out west into the northern Rockies, lots of troughing here. You can see one center there in Idaho, another around Great Falls, and a couple more through Colorado and Utah. So we're seeing more low pressure out there, and that's helping to bring the monsoon back northward into the Intermountain region. So that's kind of the lowdown what's going on for today as far as patterns. And I'll just show you a few surface plots here so you can check that out. Lots of southerly flow across the southwest there. And that's a good pattern for monsoon rains. Of course, we're getting to the end of that season, though. This is like late September, but a little bit of that pattern still exists. Let's check it out on the radar. You can see it out there in New Mexico right there, just west of Albuquerque. And if I change sectors, there we go. Most of it's active between Arizona and New Mexico right there, but a few touches of it up to Utah and the Great Basin area. So what are we looking at for our big news item? Of course, that's Hurricane Matthew out in the Caribbean right now. And we've got 65 knots on that, which is 75 miles an hour. And pressure is still pretty high up there at 987 millibars. Let's see if we got here's the NHC track on that. Forecasting recurvature here, and then basically crossing slightly west of Guantanamo Bay and up to the Bahamas by Tuesday. We can take a look at some of the model predictions on this to kind of show you what's been going on with that. And I believe I have that loaded up in Google Earth. Okay, so these are the major model plots for Hurricane Matthew. And we can see two main clusters. One is the UK Met model, and the other is the European model. And that's taken it a little bit further east across Haiti. And then we have this west set of tracks way out here, tracking it across Cuba. And we have the official NHC prediction right there, taking it slightly west of Guantanamo. But the GFDL model right there, the Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Laboratory, going for a very westerly plot. And that's very interesting because, for one thing, that comes up close to the Miami area. And if there's enough error in this track, that could certainly take it into the populated areas there. And the other significant thing about that is the GFDL has been showing the best skill on handling Matthew. So if I had to bet money on one of these models, it would be the GFDL model, and that would indicate a westward movement. GFS has also been doing pretty well, and it's going with a slightly eastward movement. The HWRF, not so good there, and the outlier right there is the NAM. And of course, we got a whole bunch of different models. We could spend all day going. In fact, let's just load up all of them, and I'll show you all of the combined statistical and dynamic tracks. So there you go. That'll keep you busy all evening. And you can see there are a few models that take that well out toward the west. Let's see what those are. The XTRP, that's the... lost my cheat sheet. I forgot which one that is. I believe that's extrapolation right there. Then we've got the Clipper models, I think, right here. Those are statistical models. The L-bar, that's an older, I think, limited dynamic model. I can't really remember. That's an older model for sure. But the important thing is the bulk of the dynamic tracks are going up across Cuba there. So we're going to be looking for them and the Bahamas to be under the gun. Okay, what else do I have set up here? Oh yeah, I wanted to show you Keitus. I went ahead and loaded this up, and you can actually use this to kind of refine your forecasts. If you have a good fix on the eye, and unfortunately we don't, because we've got a pretty closed cover of overcast here. You can see a couple of hot spots, which are very cold towers. This is a very mature convection right there, and a couple spots here. If we animate this, we might be able to get some idea of the location. And the reason the location is very important is because you can use this to improve your forecast and basically look at those dynamic models and see which one is on track, because those are runs from 7 hours ago. And here we've got data from just 30 minutes ago. This is 37 past the hour, so yeah, this is 35 minutes ago. That frame didn't complete, but there we go. This, from what I was looking at on earlier frames, I think that is probably very close to the eye, somewhere in there. Let me take one more look. So we can take that and we can kind of apply that to our dynamic list of models. It looks like these cells are going south, so I'm going to go with maybe a fix right about here. And so let's read off the Latin long for that real quick. 14.1 by 67.7. I'm going to go with 14.2, 67.7. So let's go back to the big jumble mess of spaghetti here. I'm going to put on just the GFDL model here. Oh, yeah, we're already set up here. So let's go down into that track right there. We were looking at 14.2, 67.6. Yeah, I didn't show you that. See down here at the bottom. Keitus is very good. It gives you a readout of those values, and a lot of weather websites don't do that for you. Okay, 14.2, 67.7. I keep getting mixed up on that. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be about... It's going to be about right here. So if anything, it's tracking along most of this group of models, maybe a tiny bit to the left, definitely left of the European model. So that looks to be the outlier right there. Well, the HWF, that's an outlier. And there's the European model right here. So there we go. It looks like things are on track, and we're probably going to be seeing this heading up into Cuba. Back to the maps here. We'll go and pick up our GFS forecast here. The hurricane movement on this should be fairly accurate. Of course, it's going to be 120 hours before it gets out to Florida, so a lot could change after that. But let's take a look at our forecast here. For tomorrow, yeah, this is Friday night. Big low across Indiana. That's the big cold core low across that area. Then you can see a bit of more low pressure here and a bit of ridging up in the Ontario, Quebec area. So kind of a cool pattern for the Great Lakes and central U.S. Then over the next week or so, we're going to see a little bit of that low pressure head out into Canada, a Looks pretty stagnant across much of the U.S. We start picking up the lee side troughing in Colorado right there. See that big low taking place here? This is Tuesday. And we've got this backdoor high pressure area here, so that's going to continue feeding cool air into Texas, into Kansas, into Minnesota. So you see the tropics are just about shut down. Gulf of Mexico air heading south into Mexico. So that's going to shut down the rich moisture for a while. And there you see Hurricane Matthew coming up the coast there. And I looked at a couple of intensity forecasts, and I think they were pegging this at Category 2 for like a medium right there. One model was going up to Cat 4, a couple were up to Cat 3, so this looks to be like probably not another Hurricane Andrew or anything like that. So by Wednesday, this will be kind of just working its way up the coast, up the outer banks of the Carolinas by Friday, and then it looks like it recurves away from the coast there. But we're 192 hours out, so this is getting into fortune teller land. But elsewhere in the U.S., we've got to pay attention to the other systems, and we see this big ridge building in across the central U.S. And that's going to feed another shot of cool air. Let's see what that's going to be. That's going to be about, here's the next front blowing through the plains. This is going to be Wednesday night right there. So you see that front right there? There it goes. Shot of cool air midweek. That looks to be pretty nice over the weekend. October 9th, October 10th. And now we're getting pretty far out there. It looks like another shot of cool air. So I think we're probably about done with summer here, it seems like. Well, I don't know. At the very end here, I can see a lot of cyclogenesis up through this region here. And that's going to probably suck another bit of moisture and warm air up from the Gulf. October 15th, though, so don't bet on that. All right, guys, let me check out the chat here very quick. Things look good. A little discussion about fire ants, looks like. And I think I'm done. Feel free to check in tomorrow at the same time, 8 o'clock, and we'll take a look at Matthew and see what it's doing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.